You were talking last night, Richie, during the news round, I heard, about Trump's press conference and the clashing with Jim Acosta. Have you seen what's happened today with the video that was released by...
supposedly... accusations have been doctored to make it look like a karate chop on the intern's hand, but
so people,
it's become like a half-time discussion, though. Was it a penalty? You know, was it mic to hand, you know?
Well, what they've done, so
that kind
obviously
of
people have the technology, so there's various clues that it has been in some way doctored, but what they've discovered is that the frame is frozen 3 times on the exact moment where his hand comes into contact with the female intern, which makes it look like he has chopped down.
It's remarkably like that Simpsons episode where Homer is alleged to have touched the bottom of the childminder, and there's the hard copy piss take that comes on. It's like, no, Mr. Simpson, please, no. And they just pause the video where it looks like he's edging towards the presenter and he's not. It's essentially that's what the White House have done with this Jim Acosta video.
It did get us talking about the craziest press conferences that you've covered.
Yeah.
What tops the list for you?
What's tops the list?
Now, you've been through Stan, you've been through Trapp.
Yeah, there's people... Yeah, like some of Trapp's were just mad because, like, I remember him doing a kind of... Was he impersonating a duck or something one day? And he would out doing a kind of weird dance in the middle of a press conference. And sometimes he would just start shouting and nobody knew what he was saying. And
it did make me, when they were talking about
I fell off a chair
videos
one day, which was quite funny.
Oh, yeah.
But there was one, just a quick one. The strangest one, I think, because of the context, was after Ireland drew with Portugal in 2001. In June 2001, that 2002 World Cup qualifier.
Keane was brilliant.
Yeah, Keane. I think it was Keane's best game, and Luis Figo was absolutely great. Like probably two of the best top 5 players in the world at the time, both outstanding and both scored. From what I remember, Keane, I think it was Figo and Keane got the 2 goals. But Mick McCarthy came in. It was a great result for Ireland because Ireland had drawn away to the Netherlands and Portugal already. So that put them in a strong position. And he came in and he sat down. And, do you remember the old press conference room in Lansdowne Road? It was a kind of a bandstand in the corner. Very strange little rickety room. But he came in, he sat down and he pulled out a piece of paper out of his pocket and he read out the Serenity Prayer. God grant me the courage to change the things I can. Serenity to accept the things I cannot and the wisdom to know their difference. That's how he opened the press conference. Which was...
Where did it go from there?
Where did it go from there? Like, what he asked, like, well, any knocks, Mick? Like, what's the next question? Like,
there was a similar, well, not a similar one, but there was a, during, you mentioned the Stan era, I can't remember what game it was. It was probably pretty late on in his reign at Croke Park. And Bobby Robson, who was obviously acting as a consultant at the time for the managerial reign of Staunton, was, I don't know if he was pushed into the press conference or he took it upon himself to come into the press conference, and then out of nowhere started launching this staunch defence of Staunton and his reign, and it was like, and Bobby clearly wasn't well at the time.
Was this when he then started rearranging the salt and pepper on the table?
No, that was out in Malahide. He did that a couple of times. No,
this was literally after the game.
Interesting. So,
this is literally after the game. Yeah. Robson storms in and went into, unasked, went into a defence of Staunton, and it was just both bizarre and sad at the same time because you could see a manager that was kind of failing in front of your eyes.
But there was a few during Stan's time. Like there was one
pitch side out in Malahide where he walked over, having everybody stood there for an hour in the freezing cold.
What was it, 37 seconds?
37 seconds, basically saying, like I have nothing to say to you, and just walks off.
Yeah. And he came in another time, I remember, and I think he started off by saying, you know, a lot of you didn't expect me to turn up for this or something like that, and people say, what? Like, who told you that? And he said, walls have ears. Like, he'd come up with this mysterious stuff. And then another time he said a high up German delegation had gone to the Ireland-Wales game, the first game in Croke Park, and had been scathing about the atmosphere and the pitch and the crowd and everything. So we were wondering, like, the high-up German delegation, like Germany had played Czech Republic that day, so he thought, no, they're going to be tied up, so what's he on about? So it turned out to be the head of ticketing of the German FA and a couple of security staff, but he just seemed to get bogged down in kind of
I really wish he never got that job. I really wish he never got that, because you were talking about one of the best Irish players of all time.
Yeah, and you see what it's done for his managerial reputation. Like he had a brief spell as a defence coach somewhere since then. That
Coventry,
was it.
I think.
Yeah, was it not a League Two club? I can't remember. No, but I can't remember offhand. Yeah, possibly Darlington. Yeah, because Walsall was before he joined Ireland. Yeah.
We have some particular highlights of press conference. 2014, AC Milan, former Milan and Rangers player, now AC manager Gennaro Gattuso. He was manager of OFI Crete, who got off to a rocky start in the Greek league, losing their first 3 games on the spin. When his work ethic was questioned, he gave this response.
Sometimes winner, sometimes loss. I have many difficulties. Me work 12 hours, 15 hours a day in the back. My job and my players is not touch. It's Malakia, 100% Malakia. And sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
That sounds like trap.
That last 5 seconds is 100% Trapattoni.
Sure, of course, trap is the all-time classic.
Oh, with Bayern Munich.
Bayern Munich,
That's half trap and half George Costanza's dad.
Like a water bottle empty or something. Was that what he called him? Struns.
Was editing a trap press conference akin to doctoring what he was saying? I was the world's greatest expert of editing a 3-minute Trapattoni answer into 35 seconds, but losing nothing he'd actually said.
Anybody who wants to witness an impossible job, it was editing down a Trapattoni clip to try and make sense for radio for like a 60-second bulletin. It was just impossible.
What about Louis van Gaal? He was getting a hard time in 2015 as Manchester United manager, but he only cared about the opinion of the United fans.
Now the fans are shouting every week, Louis van Gaal's army! Louis van Gaal's army! So also the fans are very satisfied with Louis van Gaal.
I missed that, man.
Yeah,
that was near the end.
Job for life, really.
That was near the end of the reign. This, I think, might have been right at the start of his reign. 2008, Daily Mirror football writer Simon Bird was on the wrong side of one joking ear.
Who? You're okay, send it to your face. Good. Right. No, I'll hit f***ing out of order. Absolute f***ing out of order. You are. And if you do it again, tell you now, f*** off and go to another ground. I will not come and stand for that f***ing crap. And that f***ing lies.
What the fuck, they had a day off?
No, the fact that you're f***ing saying that I turned up and they f***ed off. You're trying to I f***ing read it. I f***ing read it.
It doesn't say that.
I read it.
It doesn't say that.
You're f***ing trying to undermine my position already.
No, you read it. It doesn't say that. I knew you f*** off.
Who edited that? Because they sort of just gave up by the end.
Yeah, because I actually went over to the City Ground to interview Joe after he got the Nottingham Forest job a few years ago. And he...
the many forgotten jobs of Joe Kinnear.
Yeah, the interview was hilarious. Well, the few things that were very funny about it, he took down all the pictures of Brian Clough and of them winning the European Cup around his office and around the hallways, the stadium, whatever. And transcribing it, like every second word was a bleep as you got there. But it was very, very funny. And I remember once, I can't remember the name of the guy, but he was a holding midfielder. And he said, so I took this guy aside. I said, ask him, I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm a holding midfielder. And I said, what the F is that? And he said, well, you know, I kind of stay in front of the... Station myself in front of the centre half, take the ball off them and play it off. And he said, I'm effing 55. I could effing do that. He said, where did you get your effing arse up the field and try and get an effing goal?
We have a man coming up in about 15 minutes' time who I think would very much agree with the sentiment.